Hi everyone, I'm Maddie. I am the program administrator at Mass CEC on the technology development team, which is the team that gives out 3 of our grant programs. So the way today will work is we just did a quick intro. Leslie already introduced herself, and Priya will introduce herself in a few moments. We'll do a quick overview of Mass CEC and then get into details about diversity and clean tech early stage, or DICES, and then Catalyst. So can you go to the next slide, Leslie?
I gave you my mouse control. See if it works.
I don't think it's working.
Oh, there it goes.
Yay. Okay, so just a little bit about Mass CEC in case you aren't familiar. So our mission is to grow the state's clean energy industry while helping to meet the Commonwealth's clean energy, economic development, and climate goals. So we kind of have a threefold approach to this. So we invest in programs that increase renewable energy adoption by residents, businesses, and communities. We connect employers with job seekers, students, communities, and investors to the clean energy industry, as well as helping to spur innovation through infrastructure, funding, and technology development support, such as the Catalyst and DICES grant. I'll now pass it over to, I believe, Priya or Leslie.
Maddie, I think you're doing this one.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think it had Priya's initials in the initial one, but I can take this one too. So this is a little graph we have about our investment programs and where they fall on the TRL line and how much money each grant is for. So you'll see Catalyst, which is what we're talking about today, is bolded in red. So we have 2 solicitations per year for this. We do accept it on, so the next one will be due in March, which is the current round. We do grants up to $65,000 each, and these are for the research phase of development. So it's right before the prototyping phase. And then you can see if you're interested in our other grant programs, we have Innovate Mass, which is another one on the tech dev team, which is a rolling basis and is for the demonstration portion of your product, and these are grants up to $250,000. And then we have Amplify Mass, which is our largest grant, up to $300,000, and these are all the way from TRL 2 to 8, and these go along with Prime awards, so such as DOE or NSF. We offer cost share support or adder support for your Prime projects, and we also have seed investment programs that our investments team run. If you're interested in ever learning about that, you can reach out, as well as equity investments a little later on. And then something to keep in mind that would be possibly interesting for you all is our internship program. We have a really great internship program where we fund college students to be hired at clean tech companies in Massachusetts. So that's definitely something to keep in mind that might be applicable to all of you.
Great. I think this is me. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Priya Yadav, Vice President Investments at Mass Ventures. To tell you a little bit about Mass Ventures, we are the Commonwealth's strategic venture capital team, and we've been very successful in fueling innovation in Massachusetts for 43 years. Our mission is to support the early stage innovation ecosystem. We do that many ways. I'll just touch upon a few of the ways that we fulfill our mission. From a capital standpoint, we invest in diverse founders, diverse geographies, and deep tech companies, which includes clean tech at the seed stage, and we often take on a board seat. We also provide revenue-based financing loan programs for companies. In terms of grants, we provide grants such as START. So if you have an SBIR or STTR phase 2 grant, then you can apply for this program. And primarily it's targeted to creating jobs and converting research into businesses in Massachusetts. We also administer programs such as Catalyst for Mass CEC and the ACORN Innovation Grant Program, which is targeted to technologies developed at Massachusetts research institutions. We are also Mass CEC's Innovate Mass Technical Consultant. So we provide pitch coaching during the application process, and meet regularly with awardees to review work plans and discuss and resolve technical and other project-related barriers to make sure that projects succeed. From a technology acceleration standpoint, we offer multiple programs, such as our partner program, to provide in-kind contributions from service providers and free or discounted technology resources for our portfolio companies. We provide curated matching. So if you're looking for a CEO or a board advisor, you can apply for our Mass VX program. And we also have a commercialization accelerator. So it's an online resource for entrepreneurs where there's plenty of content provided by experts in go-to-market strategy, product development, customer success, and many other relevant topics. And finally, we also run MARO, which is the Association of the Mass Tech Transfer Offices across all 34 research institutions. Now back to Leslie.
Thanks, Priya, and thanks, Maddie. So now we'll get into the bulk of the content that we'll be presenting today, which all of you are here to see and learn about, which are the two grant programs that run in parallel to each other. So they are under the same solicitation, the same RFP, the same application period, but there are kind of two sub-programs within that. One of which, named Catalyst, has been around for over 10 years. It is the name that tends to be the most familiar in the ecosystem. We will talk a little bit more detail about the Catalyst program in a little bit. First, what I'm going to do is just talk about the other program that's under that same solicitation, which is new. We just started this program this year. This is the second round. We had one round in the fall, and now we are running the second round of it. And that is called Diversity in Clean Tech Early Stage, or you may hear us refer to it as DICES. That's the acronym. So DICES is under the same solicitation, the same RFP, all of the same program rules and requirements and goals and intentions as Catalyst. The only difference is the applicant eligibility type. So who the lead applicant is for the project, which I will now talk about very briefly before we get into the Catalyst program. So DICES, the goal of DICES is to enable eligible certified woman and minority-owned early-stage companies to develop prototypes and proof of concept studies. So we will give up to 2 grants each round of up to $65,000. You will also receive technical support from Mass Ventures. You just heard from Priya. So Priya and the team at Mass Ventures help support the grantees in this program. We run 2 solicitations per year, spring and fall. This current round is what we consider our spring. I know no one's quite thinking about spring yet in February, but we are just opening the RFP now. We will have our decisions made sometime around June. So we do consider this our spring round. And if you don't think you're ready yet, that's okay. We will hopefully open the program again somewhere around August or September. So the program is open now. We are accepting proposals through March 18th. And in order to be eligible for the DICES component of this combined RFP, you must be an eligible woman or minority-owned Massachusetts-based early-stage company, and you must be proposing a clean energy project, whether that be translational research or early-stage prototypes. So what does that mean to be an eligible woman or minority-owned business enterprise? So I will talk in the subsequent slides about what that means. So first, as I already blanketed at the beginning here, all applicants to DICES are subject to the same eligibility requirements and program processes that are outlined for the Catalyst program. The only difference is the applicant eligibility type, which I will now talk about in more detail. So if you are interested in applying for DICES, before you apply, you have to kind of go through one extra little step. You will follow this link, which is hard linked in here. You can click on this. When I share the slides on our website, you can directly click on that, or you can also view the link in full here if that's easier. So you want to follow this link to complete the 30-second self-assessment. It's literally 30 seconds. It's just a quick self-assessment that you will be able to complete online as part of the certification program under the Supplier Diversity Office of Massachusetts. So the Supplier Diversity Office of Massachusetts, it's part of the Massachusetts state government. They have this self-assessment that basically you go in and you answer a few questions about your company. You know, are you a for-profit business? Who owns the company? Is it a woman? Is it a minority? You'll answer a very, very short set of questions. And at the end, you will get a spit out of either something that looks like this, Woman Business Enterprise, and it'll say, your company should apply for Women Business Enterprise certification. Or it might say Minority Business Enterprise, or it might say neither, saying you shouldn't pursue either. So depending on what the answer is from this very short survey, you'll want to take a screenshot of it if it says women or minority, and you can attach that to your application to our DICES program. So that's all you have to do prior to applying. That's all we need to see. Basically, if you are awarded a grant, this is the last piece. So you apply, all you need is a self-certification of 30 seconds, that's it. And if you are selected for a grant, meaning you're reviewed by Mass CSE and Mass Ventures, you are part of the finalist round, and then you're notified in writing that you've been selected for a grant. You will need to complete a few additional steps. So this is where it is a little, there are a few more steps than just that little 30-second self-certification. So you will go back to the SDO website and you will pursue what is considered full certification. So the full certification process basically is you'll attend a webinar. They have the SDO, the Supplier Diversity Office, offers these webinars periodically throughout the year. They are usually somewhere around monthly, every other month or every 2 months. So keep your eye on it. At the time of application, you might want to look and see when the next webinar is, so you don't miss the chance, because they aren't, you know, weekly or on your own leisure. You do have to attend a regularly scheduled online webinar that walks you through the certification process. Then you'll submit an application form and basically wait to be approved by the SDO as a women or minority business enterprise. Once you get that full certification from the SDO, you'll send that to Mass CEC and Mass Ventures, and then we'll be able to proceed with executing a contract so you can start your project. So that's only if you're awarded. We intend this to not be too difficult of a process. You know, we want folks who think that they're eligible for DICES grants to go ahead and apply, and then just know that if you're actually awarded, you do have to pursue the full certification. We do outline all of this information in the RFP as well, but I figured these screenshots here can kind of help folks as they're going through the process and figuring it all out. So I will turn the mic over to Priya now, who will talk about the Catalyst program. And again, it is the same for whether you're in DICES or whether you're in Catalyst. Everything's the same except for the applicant eligibility criteria. So Priya, go ahead, and I'll pass you over remote control as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. So more about the Catalyst program. Okay, I'm trying to move it, Leslie. Doesn't seem to be working, but maybe you could move to the next slide if you don't mind. Great. So under the Catalyst program, similar to what you saw for DICES, we provide grants of up to $65K per grantee, along with technical support from Mass Ventures to Massachusetts-based early stage companies and nonprofit research institutions that are looking to demonstrate initial prototypes and perform proof of concept studies of their clean energy technologies. Students are definitely welcome to apply as long as you have a principal investigator if you are working on clean energy innovation projects. We run this program twice a year, spring and fall. So if the timing does not seem right for you now, then consider waiting for the fall to apply. Our current round for spring 2022 is open. And as Leslie mentioned, we are accepting our proposals through the midnight of March 18th. So in terms of application requirements, for the application, we ask that you provide the following items: We need an overview of the technology and why it is important. Clean energy impact. This has to be included for all applications. By clean energy impact, we need to have detail and clarity demonstrated in your proposal on greenhouse gas avoidance from cost declines, any efficiency improvements you are able to demonstrate, etc. We will need insight on the commercialization potential and clearly explain your proposed business model. We need you to provide details about what you plan to do with the grant funding. The project should be very carefully selected, and we will talk more about that in a little bit. We also expect a project budget summary, which shows how you plan to allocate your 65K budget. And finally, please provide information on your team members so we understand the technical and business composition of your team. All of these items are included in the template we have provided for the online application, so please follow it carefully. In terms of what we are looking for, tell us a good story. A proposal with a high likelihood of success would have the following attributes. For technical merit, the technology should be promising, new and disruptive. We're not looking for new ways to repurpose existing technologies. Rather, we're looking for novel technologies or solutions that you have developed. From a commercialization perspective, the market is large and or growing. We want to see that you know your customer, you know what they want, and you can deliver it. If you are targeting a smaller niche market, then we encourage applicants who are confident that they can address the needs of that targeted market. For the project plan, the project selected should be achievable within the time duration and the budget constraints provided. And the results that you show should be meaningful towards the next step of your commercialization plan. You should also have a knowledgeable team who knows how to commercialize your technology. Now, the technology also needs to fit our program. So what we're looking for there is technologies with clean energy impacts that can be measurable through the reduction of fossil fuel use. And as mentioned in the RFP for this grant cycle, what we mean by that is impactful, resilient, and cost-effective electrification technologies and approaches to decarbonizing the building sector if you are submitting an application for building level energy usage. In terms of clean transportation, show us cutting-edge clean transportation technologies that address the market barriers to electric vehicle deployment. For offshore wind, we are looking for you to project risk reduction, market confidence, enhancement, and economic development that advance this new industry. And from an integration of carbon-free generation on the electric grid, present us with technologies that enable a transition to an electric grid that can support the high penetration of intermittent renewable generation and electrification load needed to meet the Commonwealth's net zero by 2050 goal. Now, these are the 4 primary focus areas that we are looking for proposals to have a particular emphasis on. Now, the proposal you submit should also demonstrate a potential for follow-on funding. By this, we mean a likelihood of market entry for university projects and a likelihood of attracting private investment for startups. So what do we mean by prototype? A prototype is an initial model of something from which other forms are developed or replicated. It's not basic research. So we are looking for an early stage design, development, and validation of your technology. You can test your concept to evaluate your design, but you are creating something beyond an idea. It should be a real working system or product. And you could also be generating data to validate that an invention works. Now, what do we mean by clean energy impact? We use the definition provided by the general laws in Massachusetts, namely advanced and applied technologies that significantly reduce or eliminate the use of energy from non-renewable sources. This includes, among others, energy efficiency, demand response, energy conservation, and those technologies powered in whole or in part by the sun, wind, water, biomass, alcohol, wood, fuel cells, any renewable, non-depletable, or recyclable fuel. To qualify, your technology must show a clear path to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. For example, reducing cost or improving performance of carbon-free generation, energy efficiency and process energy reduction, as well as grid modernization for easier integration of renewables. And examples without a clean energy impact would be projects that improve the economics of using fossil fuels. Projects that have minimal impact on reducing greenhouse gases compared to the status quo. Water treatment technologies that have no substantial energy impact, and projects that reduce pollution and improve the environment but have no fossil fuel reduction. The projects in this last section will not have a chance of winning this grant. From an application tips standpoint, we have looked over past applications and feedback from our reviewers to give you some tips on what will constitute a successful application. So technical merit. We need to see that your technology is proven, yet new and disruptive. Try to explain things in layman's terms in a clear and concise way. Explain the specific application of your technology. And if it's not, if it is applied research, demonstrate that you're solving a problem. And this is not just basic research. Remember, you're not writing for an academic journal. We need you to explain your end goal and see that you're focused on solving a problem. And try not to overuse acronyms. Proofread the final copy. Remember, the proposal is the only thing that represents you. So make sure it's a clean professional copy. And the other thing I would mention here is, please feel free to include a picture or a diagram if that will be helpful to demonstrate what you're trying to accomplish. From a commercialization potential standpoint, the market is large and or growing. You demonstrate a strong value proposition and a market need exists. To receive a good score for the commercialization potential, you know who your customers are and what they want. You know and list your target market, who your competitors are. If you truly believe you have no competition, then maintaining the status quo is your competition. If your technology is protectable, mention any IP that you may have. Discuss your business model and how you will commercialize your technology. If you have any letters of support, include them in the appendix. Please don't be vague when discussing your market, because this is a very key component of the grant. From a project plan perspective, we want to see a strong project plan that is achievable within the timeline and the budget. And the project completion is definitely, seems like it's going to attract follow-on funding. A strong project plan is one that's meaningful and will contribute to commercialization. So something should happen once the project is completed, such as you find more funding, you line up a potential partner, or you're able to secure customers. So you may want to work backwards. What are investors and customers asking for, and how can you give it to them? So your project should demonstrate what they are asking for. You want to avoid using general milestones without measurable items. Pick a plan that will work and be realistic. In terms of knowledgeable team members, we want to see that the team has a clear understanding on the steps needed for commercialization. So we are looking for business experience as well as technical experience. It's very rare that one person has all the knowledge needed for commercialization. So tell us who will be contributing what among the team members and about their background. If you are working alone, include any advisors or mentors that you have. Attach their resumes. Tell us about their backgrounds and relative experience. If they have connections in your market, then mention that too. Now, facts, some frequently asked questions. In order to apply, you must be either a principal investigator at a Massachusetts nonprofit research institution or are a Massachusetts-based early stage clean energy company with no more than $1 million in combined financing, grant funding, and revenues within the past 5 years, and you have 4 or fewer full-time equivalent employees. Massachusetts-based companies are companies which are currently have and maintain a majority of the following in Massachusetts. So your company headquarters, primary executives located here, primary research and development operations, primary manufacturing operations, or primary sales and marketing offices are located here. If you have a question about having enough of your company in the state, please contact us and we can discuss it. Student teams with a faculty member or researcher who will act as a PI and will be responsible for the management of the grant and the institution's reporting requirements are also eligible to apply. We will give up to 7 Clean Tech Awards, and each award will be up to $65,000. Again, follow the general laws of Massachusetts for clean energy. If you have any questions about if your specific technology is eligible, contact us. And finally, the duration of the clean tech projects should be a maximum of 1 year. Now we wanted to just show you some recent grantees from our program. So I will pause here and let you take in some of the projects, types of projects that have won Catalyst grants in recent years. Okay. In terms of the timeline and logistics, you can go to the Mass CEC website or the Mass Ventures website for the RFP and the online application portal link. In order to keep the program as fair as possible, we will be collecting all questions by March 4th and posting all the responses by March 6th on the Mass CEC website. So you may want to check the website again on that date. The due date for applications is March 18th. So midnight of March 18th, will be the last point in time for you to turn in your application. From there, the applications will be reviewed by our committee and sent out to external reviewers. Finalists who will be invited to pitch will be notified on April 21st, and we will be providing pitch coaching sessions from then on, leading up to a few days before pitch day. The finalists will do their pitch presentations to a panelist of judges during the week of May 16th, and winners will be notified of their award status by June 30th. As I close, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We are happy to clarify any part of the program. The clearer you are with what we want, the stronger your proposal will be. Thank you, and I will now pass this off to Leslie.
Thank you, Priya. And again, thank you everyone for joining. I just wanted to state one last thing. The DICES grants that I presented, I mentioned that there were 2, and then Priya mentioned that there were 7 Catalyst grants. I just want to clarify that that means there will be a total of 9 grants. So the 2 DICES are not part of that 7, so it's 7 plus 2. So there'll be a total of 9 grants, 7 are available for the Catalyst program, and 2 are available to eligible applicants under DICES. With that, I think we have pretty much concluded the bulk of the content for the webinar today. Please feel free to type any of your questions in the Q&A box, and we will answer them as they come in. And if you don't have questions now, that's also fine. As Priya mentioned, you are welcome to submit questions via email to the email you see on the screen right now, which is companycatalyst masscec.com, and we will answer those questions via email in early March. And then we will also post all the questions and all of the responses on MassCEC's website in early March as well. That should give everyone plenty of time to review the typical Q&A and be able to get their applications in before March 18th. So we do have one question asking if minority applicants are considered for both categories. Yes, absolutely. So women or minority-owned enterprises are not precluded from applying to Catalyst. It's just that if you are a woman or minority-owned business, you can apply to DICES. DICES proposals are reviewed in their own category, so it is a smaller pool typically, not always, but last round it was. And there are 2 grants reserved for those who do apply to DICES, but that does not preclude you from applying to Catalyst. The way that we'll know you're interested in either Catalyst or DICES consideration is when you go to the online application portal. You'll just check a box basically that says you're applying for DICES or not. And then that's how we'll know, and we'll kind of categorize the application that way. Any other questions? Feel free to type them in the Q&A or the chat. That works too. No, I'm not seeing any others, and I am seeing a few names drop off. So that means most folks probably got their questions answered with the slides, which is great. Again, feel free to, oh, sorry, one last question came in. Would a technology reducing fossil fuel consumption for glass be considered? You know, it's hard to say without reading a full proposal, but anything that reduces fossil fuel consumption is eligible. We have a clean energy definition. Let me go back to that slide, and I'll leave this up here. MassCEC's funding is restricted to funding projects that meet this definition. It's part of our enabling legislation. So it is a legal mandate that we are restricted by. But anything that significantly reduces or eliminates the use of energy from non-renewable sources. And we typically, as you mentioned in your question, tend to think of that as fossil fuel consumption. So without knowing anything else about your particular project, it sounds as though that would be eligible to apply. Can someone be part of 2 separate applications? Yes, you can. I would say, again, that's I'm assuming that means you're either a PI, a university maybe, or someone in the academic world. It would be unlikely that a startup would submit 2 different applications. It's not something I've seen before. But particularly if you're a researcher in academia, it might be possible that you have 2 sets of grad students or 2 separate technologies that you're aiming to commercialize. And yes, you can submit 2 proposals and be considered for both.
I will just add that there has to be clear separation. So between the 2
Right.
proposals, just to add to what Leslie said.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Priya. Thank you. So the follow-up is it would be 2 different startups. Yeah. So if it's 2 different startups, but there's one person who may work on both, again, that's fine. Reiterating what Priya just said, which was a great addition, just has to be clear that they are distinct and that there is a reason for the involvement in both. And that's certainly fine. Yeah.
There's one in the chat, Leslie.
Yeah, I just saw that. I assume geothermal is on the list because it's not explicitly on the list. Yeah, so geothermal would kind of go into the renewable, anything that has to do with renewable energy, which is of course fine. It's not explicitly listed out, but yes, geothermal is certainly renewable energy and is certainly something that eliminates the use of energy from non-renewable sources. Okay, I haven't seen any other questions come in. Great questions, everyone. Thank you. And As I mentioned at the top of the Q&A portion, please feel free to submit them in writing via email if you have any further questions that we didn't address or something comes to mind later. Oh, sorry, just kidding. There's another one before we sign up. How precise do we need to be and when we calculate the carbon footprint? I mean, as precise as you can be. The application says to list out your greenhouse gas impact and your carbon footprint, but we don't want you to go out and solicit a life cycle analysis or anything complicated like that. We know that can be difficult for early stage companies and researchers. So just doing your best and listing your sources. There's a lot of publicly available data, some of which we link in our website and in our RFP, but you can go to the EPA has a calculator that folks have used. There's third parties that are not government based, like the Prime Coalition lists something called a crane tool that you can go in and simulate avoidance of future addressable market emissions. So there are some publicly available sources that you can lean into. I would just say do the best to make your answer seem researched and believable, but obviously we understand that it is all just estimates at this stage of product development, and it's hard to really be concrete, but listing sources will be really helpful as we look at it. Okay, I think we're out of questions. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope to see applications come in the next month from everyone on the line, and always reach out and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks for attending.